of IPMI International Business School MBA class of 2023.
We are going to highlight the book by David Smith with title The World is Curved: Hidden Dangers to the Global Economy.
Hopefully this book review will help you and help everyone who watches this book review.
Happy watching and enjoy our video.
We are going to highlight the book by David Smith titled The World is Curved: Hidden Dangers to the Global Economy. David Smith is an economist and financial expert who provides insight into the global economy complexities. In this book, he shared about the hidden risks and challenges that impact the global economy. It also offers insights into the challenges and opportunities it presents. It was written in the context of financial crisis back in 2007 to 2008.
We start from chapter 1, the end of the world. The industrialized world was facing a full-fledged liquidity crisis. The Great Credit Crisis began in 2007 until 2008. In a flash, the world's banks and other financial institutions had stopped making loans. The global financial system was slip-sliding away. During the 1987 stock market crash, a decade later, in the fall of 1978, the collapse and subsequent market rescue of the trading firm Long-Term Capital Management had brought the world economy closer to the edge than anyone had realized. The market becomes hysterical over losses in the subprime market. The global economy was in the process of deleveraging, gradually reducing risk, while housing bubble deflate, but the market had known that for months. The private credit market stopped functioning, the entire economy is at risk. Global financial markets are a bit like a rich, generous, but occasionally deeply paranoid great uncle. In some cases, lack of transparency can lead to euphoria that fools financial bubbles because of lack of factual information. In this case, however, lack of reliable information caused global lending to screech dangerously to a halt. But there is a broader point of this discussion. We live an era of globalization where financial markets have been internationalized through an intricate web of financial engineering called securitization. In the bad news is that today's spectacular global economy is both unstable and unsettling. As jobs and investment move around the world, people lose income and pensions. As a result of globalization, immense wealth creation, the world has been a waste of money, and much of it the past few decades has so happened in the US. We are going to chapter 2, a dangerous ocean of money. The new ocean of money in the global economy was changing the rules of the game. The global economy was undergoing a fundamental change. Shift in savings across borders were making the old financial models obsolete. The predicted of the US stock market would bounce back from collapse. Now, more easy to able to borrow in the foreign markets to purchase US stock. The new world, as we know it, developed to a significant degree after the Asian financial crisis. During that period, the Asian economics faced a classic financial panic. McKinsey Global Institute describes the parameters of today's global financial landscape and the new shift in financial power. The study describes the 4 new power brokers of the global economy. The first one is investors from oil exporting nations. Second is Asian central bankers and their sovereign wealth funds. Third is hedge funds, and last is private equity firms. The big 4 new power brokers increasingly control and shape the global financial system. In the end, is why America needs to maintain policies that continue to make it an attractive destination for investment. America also needs to correct its fiscal imbalance. The challenge is to devise policies that will correct imbalance without jeopardizing the wealth and jobs created by the entrepreneur capitalist system. The key is to avoid killing the laissez-faire decades spirit of entrepreneurship. At present, there is a real danger that the policy perceptions offered by political community now infatuated with class warfare and protectionist rhetoric will end killing the patient. Ultimately, in the 21st century global economy, it is human capital that matters the most.
In this book, in the chapter 3, the author talk about entrepreneurs in the world of private equity and hedge funds troublemakers. Paul Tudor Jones, a prominent hedge funds investor, revealed the gap between government and financial market. Negative bias against hedge funds can harm the global financial system. Despite some reckless behavior, hedge funds are crucial for market stability. The Federal Reserve's expense safety net may hinder entrepreneurial lending. Supporting risk-takers and innovators is vital for a thriving economy. Policymakers should be cautious with entrepreneurship. Unpredictable entrepreneurial capitalism needs a supportive climate. Tax policies can impact a nation's financial reputation. Global entrepreneurs seek favorable conditions. The global economy is hard to control and China's future is uncertain. In summary, tax policies affect a nation's financial reputation. Entrepreneurial capitalism needs careful management. Dynamic economics thrive on innovation and meritocracy. Policymakers must support entrepreneurship by avoiding regulatory barriers. Politicians should refrain from interfering with entrepreneurship for global competitiveness. Now, Chapter 4. It's talk about Tony Soprano writes The China's Dragon. The text talks about China's role in the global economy. China's fast growth has some issues like political tension, financial bubbles, and inflation. The US should manage its relationship with China carefully to avoid problems. There's a risk of China's economy becoming unstable and causing issues worldwide. The author shares a story about a bad investment in China due to corruption and mismanagement. China's economy is growing and might become larger than the US, but there are challenges like low productivity and environmental problems. China restricts foreign investment in important areas, and the Communist Party has a big say in a bank decision. In summary, China has a big impact on the global economy. It has advantages and disadvantages. The financial system in China faces problems, and there are concerns about its bank. China is buying Western companies and has issues with its stock market and real estate. There are concerns about inflation, unreliable data, and the impact of the US economy on Asia. Despite challenges, China's economy has been doing well with strong export.
Chapter 5. Japanese housewives take the commanding height. In the middle 1980s, Japan was seen as an economic power that was expected to dominate the 21st century by several indicators. Domination of several Japanese multinational companies in the world such as Toyota, and foreign ownership of Japanese shares has increased every year for the past 2 decades. And Japan has the world's largest private investment savings. Japan's economic bubble burst due to several factors such as a strengthening yen, reckless real estate financing, and misguided policy responses such as new land ownership tax and restricted bank lending for the real estate. The Central Bank of Japan lowered interest rates to mitigate the strengthening of the yen, but the bubble only got bigger. They then raised interest rates, causing a market crash and economic chaos. Then the 1990s Japan's lost decade happened. During the era of cheap money, there are winners and losers. Their big banks got many benefits of this situation by buying other countries' government debt. However, Japan's household sector is finally strangled as their saving accounts now provide only small returns. Japanese housewives take action. Housewife has become one of the biggest forces behind the scenes in the global foreign exchange market. They shopping around and buying foreign bonds with much higher yields. And 1/5 of all currency trading worldwide during Tokyo trading hours involved mostly women. For the rest of the world, this is the reason why Japanese housewives are so important. Japan has dilemma if they raises the interest rate. This will cause serious financial problems, not only for Japan, but also for the world will be affected. The key lesson is that policymakers must understand and address this issue in a complex global financial system to avoid repeating Japan's mistakes. Chapter 6. Nothing Stay the Same, the 1992 Sterling Crisis. In 1992, the European monetary crisis was an illustration of the impact of ego, stubbornness, and blindness, causing major turmoil in the financial world. Europe's economic landscape is changing. Germany succeeded in carrying out economic transformation and creating a competitive climate, such as large-scale mergers and acquisitions influenced by global hedge funds and investment banks. Restructuring and reform of German companies was successful through the acquisition of foreign ownership. Important events in 1992 involving currency volatility and financial market influences marked the decline in the authority of central banks and government in managing global financial markets. Death parties in this incident included German central bankers, Italian financial officials, and also British officials. The situation at hand are changing in financial market trading, trade in the world economy and financial system, and economic and political dynamics in Europe, especially in the early 1990s, focus on European exchange rate mechanism. Germany recognized the importance of treating global market with caution and understand the potential consequences of policy mistakes in the new era of globalization. However, British government was less aware of the rapid changes in global financial market and the risk of losing control over currency market. An important message that can be understood from this case is policymakers need to be careful in dealing with financial threats and understand the dynamic of the global financial system.
Chapter 7. The Incredible Shrinking Central Banks. Challenges faced by central banks in changing world. For the first things that talk about in this chapter is about the myth of central bank power. In myth of central bank power, it's about first one is common misconception. So in this book, common misconception is talk about central banks can easily restore financial normalcy. Highlights the common belief that central banks possess the power of effortlessly stabilize financial markets during crisis. It introduces the misconception that central banks can magically restore economical stability. For another things, for this chapter talk about reality that central banks have limited tools and face new challenges. This chapter explains the reality that central banks are constrained in their action and are encountering novel challenges. It sets the stage of discussing the limitations central banks currently face. Another point talked in this chapter is about the declining power of central banks. In this chapter, talk about the diminishing influence of central banks in today's financial landscape. It hints at the central theme of the presentation, which is the decreasing efficiency of central bank itself. Another thing talks in this book is about central bank's limited option. They talk about three limited options in this book. First one is financial panics and central banks. Second one is reduced effectiveness of monetary stimulus, and the third one is lack of statistical radar. In financial panics and central banks is about the context of financial panics and their impact on central banks. It implies that central banks are frequently confronted with the crisis and must formulate response in such situations. And about reduced effectiveness of monetary stimulus, the idea that central banks' traditional monetary stimulus tools are becoming less effective. It highlights a key challenge central banks face in influencing economic conditions. And the last one about the limited option is about loss of statistical radar. The central banks have lost some of their essential statistical tools for monitoring and navigating economic conditions. It suggests that central banks are operating with incomplete information, making their task more challenging. In this chapter, talk about Federal Reserve dilemma. First one is bold interest rate cuts. The first option available to the Federal Reserve, which involves implementing significant interest rate cuts. It hints at the potential benefits of this approach but also raises concern, such as inflation and the risk of collapsing dollar. And another one is talk about restrained interest rate cutting. The second option, which is a more cautious approach to interest rate cuts. It suggests that its approach aims to strike a balance between controlling inflation, maintaining a strong dollar, and stimulating the economy. And the last one, they talk about the risk of dollar collapse. The risk associated with both options, particularly the potential collapse of the US dollar. It implies that the Fed's decision have significant implications for the global financial landscape. I recommend you to read this book because they also talk about financial market takeover. In this case, they talk about global financial market actions, the proactive role of global financial markets in saving events. It suggests that market forces can influence the trajectory of financial and economic developments. And other things, they talk about impact of market decision itself, the consequences of market decisions, hinting at how markets can impact economic outcomes. It highlights the idea that market forces play a substantial role in determining financial stability. And the last one, they talk about the shifting landscape of financial globalization. They introduce the concept of a changing financial globalization landscape, and it implies that the financial globalization has evolved over time, and the central banks need to adapt to these changes. Chapter 8. In this chapter, talk about class warfare and the politics of globalization. The first one, they talk about the origins of globalization. Globalization's political beginnings. In this chapter, globalization and the opening of capital markets were primarily driven by political decisions as a response to the economic challenges faced during the 1970s. Another thing they talk about voter acceptance of globalization. The success and the continuity of globalization depend on the willingness of voters to accept it, despite its imperfections and the benefits it offers. Another things the chapter talks about is political risk in today's global economy. The things that impact of political change on capital mobility, how global capital is highly sensitive to political risk and is quick to move when even the potential for negative political change arises. Another things, challenges of class warfare and protectionism. The obstacle posed by class warfare, excessive government intervention, and protectionist policies. It underlines the importance of avoiding well-intentioned yet counterproductive fiscal and regulatory changes. Next, they talk about the changing political landscape. So, this book also talk about bipartisan consensus in globalization. Bipartisan consensus in favor for free trade and liberalized financial markets over the last 25 years. It illustrates the globalization wasn't exclusive to a single political party or ideology. Reagan, Clinton, and the globalization webs. Lastly, in this chapter, they talk about the uncertain future. Shift away from pro-globalization policies. The recent shift away from pro-globalization policies by both major U.S. political parties, leading to financial market turbulence and currency devaluations. And the last one is repricing of political change. How financial markets may need to reevaluate the changing political landscape and the implication for assets pricing. That's all about chapter 7 and chapter 8 from this book. Thank you very much.
Now we arrive at final chapter, chapter 9, Surviving and Prospering in this Age of Volatility. As we all know that the global financial world is very dangerous place, and therefore, as leaders, they need to open their eyes and have the following strategies to survive. First, they must have an effective game plan and anticipate uncertainties in the global economy. Second, they need to understand the relationship of the currencies, sovereign risk, and the global trading system. And indeed, the governments need to revisit the system used to assess and allocate credit. The ugly truth is revealed in this book, whereby the heart of the great crisis of 2008 was nothing less than a crisis of trust in the financial architecture. It raised several questions about the financial system's integrity. It caused by all regulatory failures. We know that the Basel requirements force the bank to put sufficient capital when the bank would like to increase their level of risk. And this is like insurance policy to protect the integrity of the global banking system. However, on the other hand, the international standard somehow encourages the bank to have higher return, and it implies higher risk. In a sense, the financial crisis of 2008 was not solely a result of the bursting housing bubbles, but also a crisis of financial trust and the complicated financial instrument that the bank creates of balance sheet vehicles. It also involves greed. Bank regulators and credit rating agencies failed to identify the risks associated with these off-balance sheet vehicles and the securities they held. This lack of oversight contributed to the risk. Finally, over the next several years, a team of financial policy brain surgeons from both the public and the private sectors is required, with the political backing of some powerful and sophisticated leaders in the government. Some of actions required are, among others, need to reform. The financial industry indeed requires to increase transparency, manage risk, standardize pricing of securities assets, and eliminate off-balance sheet vehicles. However, this reform will take time and careful considerations. Financial authorities worldwide must have restrictions on complex financial products which could further harm the global credit market. The policy will also need a big thing, financial doctrine, or at least a series of informal understanding in anticipations of financial crises in general. Policymakers need to find ways to improve the performance of the international credit rating agencies. And the final one, financial institutions will have to adapt and change their business models in response to the crisis. But the macroeconomic consequences of this shift are unclear. As final conclusion, The World is Curve critically analyzes the challenges and uncertainties in the global economy, emphasizing the need for greater transparency, risk management, and thoughtful policy responses. It serves as a reminder of the intricacies of the modern financial system and the importance of understanding its complexities to prevent future economic crises. That's all from our group. Thank you so much. Hope this is useful.
That's all our book review. Hopefully it provides insight and useful for us.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.